The war room aboard the Galactic command ship was filled with confused silence. Admiral Kethvar stared at the holographic display, showing battle statistics from the recent Zephyrian War. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. The numbers had to be wrong. "Run the analysis again," he ordered his aide, a young Centauri officer named Vextal. The blue-skinned alien's fingers moved across the control panel. The same impossible data appeared on the screen. Admiral Kethvar. Scaled hands clenched into fists. After 40 years of military service across 12 different star systems, he had never seen anything like this. Senator Zixtal from the Centauri Collective floated into the room, her tentacles swaying with each movement. As head of the Senate Military Committee, she had been called to review these strange reports. Her translator device hummed as she spoke. "Admiral, explain to me why the Senate is receiving complaints from our best military units. They claim that human civilians are making them look like untrained children." Admiral Kethvar gestured toward the display. "Senator, these numbers should be impossible. Look at this report from the Battle of Kepler Station." The hologram showed combat records from the 3-day siege. The Altarian elite guard, trained from birth for warfare, had an average kill count of 12 enemies per soldier. The Andromedian Special Forces, considered the deadliest fighters in the galaxy, averaged 15 kills each. But mixed in with the military units were human civilian contractors. This human, Admiral Kethvar pointed to a name on the list, Jake Morrison. His file says he worked in construction before the war. Construction, Senator. Building houses. And roads. Yet he has 47 confirmed kills in a single battle. Senator Zixtal's tentacles curled in disbelief. "That cannot be accurate. Recheck the data." "I have checked it 17 times. The kill count is verified by battlefield recordings and witness statements from multiple species." The Admiral brought up another file. Here is another one. Lisa Carter, age 26. Her occupation is listed as barista. She made coffee drinks for a living. During the siege, she eliminated 63 enemy combatants. The senator's skin color shifted to a darker blue, indicating stress. In her long political career, she had never encountered anything so strange. Civilians were supposed to be weak, frightened beings who needed protection from trained soldiers. They were not supposed to be more dangerous than elite military units. "Show me more," she demanded. Admiral Kethvar called up dozens of files. Human after human appeared on the screen, each with impossible statistics. A man named Rick Thompson, who fixed vehicles for a living, had killed 31 enemies while helping defend a supply depot. A woman called Maria Santos, whose job was teaching children, had destroyed an entire enemy squad while protecting evacuation routes. "Admiral, what training do these humans receive? They must be former military personnel using false identities." "No." "Senator, we verified their backgrounds thoroughly. Rick Thompson really did repair vehicles. Maria Santos actually taught at a school for small humans. Lisa Carter did serve coffee and pastries. These are genuine civilians with no formal military training." Senator Zixtal moved closer to the display. Her species had evolved past physical conflict thousands of years ago. War was something they left to professional soldiers, while civilians lived peaceful lives. The idea that ordinary citizens could be effective killers made no sense. What weapons were they using? Perhaps Earth has some advanced technology we do not know about. Standard galactic infantry equipment. The same rifles and armor our soldiers carry. Nothing special or advanced. Admiral Kethvar switched to video recordings from the battles. "Watch this footage from the siege." The hologram showed a chaotic urban battle. Zephyrian soldiers in their distinctive purple armor moved through ruined buildings. Suddenly, weapons Fire erupted from multiple positions. The camera tracked the source to show human civilians working together with frightening efficiency. Jake Morrison appeared on screen, wearing dirty construction clothes under his military vest. He moved through the rubble like he had been doing it his whole life. His rifle fired with precise timing. Each shot found its target. When his ammunition ran low, he calmly reloaded while his partner, a small human woman, provided covering fire. Look. At their coordination, Admiral Kethfor pointed out. They communicate without speaking. They know exactly where each other will be. This is not random civilian behavior. The video continued showing Lisa Carter, the coffee maker, leading a group of mixed human and alien soldiers through enemy lines. She used hand signals that the alien soldiers had never seen before, but somehow understood. Her movements were confident and deadly. She eliminated enemies with the same calm efficiency. She probably used to make morning beverages. Senator Zixtal watched in growing amazement as civilians continued to outperform trained soldiers throughout the recordings. These humans fought like they had been born for war, yet their files showed ordinary, peaceful occupations. Admiral, contact the human authority immediately. We need answers. Already attempted, Senator. Their military leaders seem as surprised as we are. Captain Rodriguez, their liaison officer, claims he does not understand it either. He says these civilians volunteered for combat duty against his recommendations. Volunteered? Senator Zixtal's tentacles writhed in confusion. Civilians volunteered to fight in a war zone? This becomes stranger with each detail. Admiral Kethfor nodded grimly. According to human authority records, they had more civilian volunteers than they could equip. Thousands of humans with no military training insisted on joining combat operations. They actually had to turn people away. This defies everything we know about civilian psychology. Citizens are supposed to avoid conflict, not seek it out. The senator reviewed the files again, hoping to find some explanation. What do our xenobiologists say about human behavior patterns? That is another mystery, Senator. Our experts studied humans for 2 years before approving their membership in the Galactic Senate. Nothing in their research suggested this level of combat capability among military populations. Senator Zixtal made a decision that would change galactic understanding forever. Admiral, prepare a full investigation team. We will travel to Earth and study these humans directly. The Senate needs to understand what we are dealing with before we make any more assumptions about our newest members. As the two aliens began planning their investigation, neither could imagine the shocking truth they would discover about human civilization and why every human carried the heart of a warrior. The research vessel, GSS Inquiry, moved through space toward Earth at maximum speed. Admiral Kethfor stood in the observation deck, watching the blue planet grow larger through the transparent metal walls. Beside him, Senator Zixtal reviewed files. On her portable data pad, while her tentacles moved in nervous patterns. A human liaison officer should arrive within the hour, she informed the Admiral. Captain Danny Rodriguez will brief us on human civilian behavior before we begin surface investigations. Admiral Kethfor nodded, but kept his 4 eyes focused on Earth. The planet looked peaceful from space. White clouds swirled over blue oceans and green continents. Nothing about it suggested a world that produced civilians more dangerous than trained soldiers. When Captain Rodriguez entered the briefing room, both aliens were surprised by his appearance. The human was smaller than expected, with dark hair and friendly brown eyes. He wore a simple military uniform without the elaborate decorations common among galactic officers. His relaxed manner seemed inappropriate for someone representing such deadly people. Welcome to Earth space, Captain Rodriguez said with a smile. I understand you have questions about our civilian volunteers during the Zephyrian War. Senator Zixtal activated her recording device. Captain, we need to understand how untrained humans achieve such extraordinary combat results. Our best military units were outperformed by people who make coffee and build houses. Captain Rodriguez laughed, which confused both aliens. Senator, I think there might be some misunderstanding about what we consider civilians. Can you show me the specific cases? Admiral Kethvar projected the holographic files. Jake Morrison, construction worker. Lisa Carter, barista. Whit Thompson, vehicle. Mechanic, Maria Santos, teacher. None have military training, yet their kill counts exceed our elite forces. The human captain studied the data for several minutes. His expression grew thoughtful. These are interesting cases. You are right that they have no formal military training, but calling them untrained might not be accurate. Explain, Senator Zixtal demanded. Well, Jake Morrison works construction, but he also hunts deer every winter with his father and brothers. Lisa Carter makes coffee, but she spends weekends at shooting competitions. Rick Thompson fixes cars and also collects military weapons as a hobby. Maria Santos teaches school and volunteers with local emergency response teams. Both aliens stared at him blankly. Captain Rodriguez realized they did not understand. Perhaps we should visit Earth's surface so you can observe human civilian life directly. I think it will answer your questions better than explanations. 3 hours later, the investigation team materialized in a human city using galactic transport. Technology. Admiral Kethvar and Senator Zixtal wore disguise fields to appear human, though their movements remained awkward. Captain Rodriguez led them down a busy street filled with humans going about their daily activities. This is a typical civilian area, he explained. Let us visit some common businesses. Their first stop was a store with a sign reading Pete's, hunting and sporting goods. Inside, the walls were covered with weapons of various types. Humans browsed casually among displays of rifles, ammunition, and equipment designed for tracking and killing animals. Behind the counter stood a middle-aged human with graying hair. Captain Rodriguez approached him. Pete Johnson, these are visiting. Researchers studying human recreational activities. Pete smiled and shook hands with the disguised aliens. Welcome to my store. You folks interested in hunting season? Got some great new rifles that came in last week. Senator Zixtal tried to hide her shock. This was supposed to be a peaceful civilian merchant, yet he was surrounded by enough weapons to arm a small military unit. You sell these weapons to ordinary citizens? Sure do. Most folks around here hunt deer, elk, sometimes bear if they are lucky. Need good equipment for clean kills at long range. Pete pulled a rifle from the wall display. This beauty here is accurate up to 800 meters. Perfect for mountain hunting. Admiral Kethvar's scaled hands trembled slightly. 800 meters was beyond the effective range of standard galactic infantry weapons. How do customers learn to use such equipment? Oh, most learn from family. Fathers teach sons. Mothers teach daughters. Been hunting these parts for generations. Plus we got shooting clubs, training courses, weekend competitions. Pete gestured toward a bulletin board covered with announcements. Amy Brooks there just won the state championship for long range precision shooting. Works at the bank during the week. As if summoned by her name, a young woman approached the counter. Amy Brooks appeared to be in her 20s, with blonde hair and a cheerful expression. She wore professional clothing that suggested office work. Hey, Pete, got those new targets in yet? Need to practice for next month's competition. Sure thing, Amy. How did the regional match go last weekend? Took first place in 3 categories. My 1,000-meter groups are getting really tight. She noticed the visitors. You folks new to shooting sports? Senator Zixtal fought to keep her voice steady. You shoot at targets 1,000 meters away? That is just for fun. Amy replied with a laugh. Practical hunting ranges are much closer, maybe 300 or 400 meters max. Though my grandfather could hit running deer at 600 meters with iron sights. Man was incredible. The aliens exchanged worried glances. This young financial worker spoke of shooting distances that challenged military snipers as casual entertainment. Her grandfather, presumably another civilian, had capabilities that exceeded Galactic Special Forces. Captain Rodriguez guided them outside, where they encountered two teenagers, arguing loudly about something called tactical strategy. "Kevin, your flanking maneuver was terrible," said a girl with red hair. "You left the entire Easter approach undefended." "Whatever, Megan. Your team got wiped out in the first 5 minutes," replied a boy wearing a shirt decorated with images of soldiers. "Excuse me," Admiral Kethfer interrupted. "What are you discussing?" Kevin looked up eagerly. "Last night's battle in Combat Commander Online. Megan thinks she knows everything about urban warfare tactics." "It is just a game," Megan explained. "We command virtual armies and fight strategic battles. Kevin is terrible at resource management and troop positioning." Senator Zixtel leaned closer to Captain Rodriguez. "These children study military tactics for entertainment? Very popular hobby. Most teenagers play some form of strategy or combat simulation. Helps develop tactical thinking and quick decision making." The investigation team spent the rest of the day visiting more civilian locations. Every stop revealed new evidence that human civilians possessed knowledge and skills that other species considered military secrets. A bookstore sold detailed manuals on survival, weapons, and combat medicine alongside children's stories. A movie theater showed films depicting elaborate military operations and gunfights. Even a simple restaurant had customers casually discussing hunting techniques and weapon modifications. As evening approached, the aliens realized they had discovered something unprecedented in galactic civilization. Humans did not separate their civilian and military populations the way other species did. Every ordinary citizen carried knowledge that would make them dangerous in combat situations. The investigation was just beginning, and already both aliens feared what else they might discover about humanity's unique relationship with warfare. The next morning, Captain Rodriguez guided the investigation team toward a rural area outside the city. Admiral Kethfer and Senator Zixtal sat in the back of the ground vehicle, both still processing what they had witnessed the previous day. The human transport moved along a road surrounded by open fields and scattered farms. "Yesterday, we saw urban civilians," Captain Rodriguez explained as he drove. "Today you will observe rural human communities. I think you will find them even more interesting." Senator Zixtal's tentacles curled nervously. "More interesting than civilians who practice military tactics for entertainment." "Much more interesting," the captain replied with a knowing smile. They stopped at a large farm where fields of green crops stretched toward distant hills. A man in work clothes was repairing a fence near the road. Captain Rodriguez approached him while the aliens followed at a cautious distance. "Morning, Bill. These are researchers studying rural communities. Mind if they ask a few questions?" Bill Thompson straightened up and wiped his hands on a cloth. He was a large man with sun-weathered skin and calloused fingers. His friendly smile reminded the aliens of Pete Johnson from the weapons store. "Sure thing. Always happy to talk about farm life." Bill shook hands with the disguised visitors. "You folks from the government or something?" Admiral Kethfer decided to test something. "We are studying how civilians handle dangerous situations." "Do you encounter many threats out here?" Bill laughed and gestured toward the surrounding wilderness. "Oh, sure. Plenty of dangerous critters around these parts. Wolves, bears, mountain lions. Lost 3 cattle to wolves last month. Had to track them down and eliminate the pack before they killed more livestock." "You hunted wolves?" Senator Zixtel tried to keep her voice steady. Tracked them for 2 days through rough country. Wolves are smart and dangerous when cornered. Had to use military tactics my grandfather taught me. He served in some old Earth war, learned a lot about hunting dangerous enemies. Bill pointed toward the forest. Found their den up in those hills. Took them out one by one using techniques Grandpa showed me. The aliens exchanged glances. This farmer spoke of hunting predators like a military operation. He used inherited combat knowledge passed down from previous generations. What kind of techniques? Admiral Kethver asked. Basic stuff. How to move quietly, read tracks, predict. Animal behavior, patience, and positioning. Same skills work whether you're hunting deer or eliminating threats to your family. Bill picked up his rifle, which had been leaning against the fence. This belonged to my father. He taught me to shoot before I could properly walk. Carol Davis appeared from the farmhouse, carrying a basket of vegetables. She was a middle-aged woman with graying hair and strong hands. Her movements showed the confidence of someone comfortable with physical work. Bill bothering you folks with his war stories? She asked with a smile. Just explaining about dealing with predators, Bill replied. Carol set down her basket. Oh, you mean like that mountain lion last winter? Thing was stalking children at the school bus stop. Had to organize the whole neighborhood to track it. Down. You organized a hunt for a mountain lion? Senator Zixtal's voice cracked slightly. Well, sure. Can't have dangerous predators threatening children. Took 6 of us 3 days to corner it properly. Had to coordinate our movements like a military operation. My husband learned tactics from his army service, and I picked up tracking skills from my father. Admiral Kethver was beginning to understand something disturbing. These rural humans lived in constant preparation for violence. They faced genuine threats regularly and responded with inherited military knowledge. How many weapons do you own? He asked directly. Bill and Carol looked at each other and laughed. Between the 2 farms, probably 40 or 50 rifles and shotguns, Carol answered. Plus handguns, hunting bows, even some of my grandfather's old military equipment. 40 or 50 weapons, Senator Zixtal repeated in shock. Each weapon has different uses, Bill explained patiently. Different calibers for different animals. Long-range rifles for deer and elk. Shotguns for birds and close encounters. Heavy rifles for bears and other large predators. Plus backup weapons in case something breaks. Captain Rodriguez led the team back to their vehicle. As they drove away, he decided to explain more about human rural culture. Most farming communities are like that. They live in areas with genuine dangers and limited law enforcement. Each family must be able to defend itself. Children grow up learning weapons handling, tracking, tactical thinking, and emergency medical care. This is not civilian behavior, Admiral Kethver stated firmly. These people are essentially part-time soldiers. They would disagree with that assessment. To them, these are just normal life skills. Every human community has similar capabilities. There. Next stop was a small town with a few thousand residents. Captain Rodriguez parked outside a building labeled Community Center, where a large group of humans had gathered. Inside, they discovered what humans called a gun show. Hundreds of weapons were displayed on tables while civilians browsed and made purchases. The atmosphere was casual and friendly, like a marketplace for any other goods. Admiral Kethver watched in amazement as families with small children examined military-grade equipment. Parents discussed weapon specifications while their offspring played nearby. Elderly humans shared stories about historical battles and displayed antique weapons from past wars dotted one table. They met Chris Martinez and Linda Foster, both wearing professional clothing that suggested office jobs. Chris was examining a rifle scope while Linda tested the weight of different ammunition types. This scope has excellent clarity at 800 meters, Chris commented to Linda. Perfect for long-range shooting competitions. The ballistics look good, Linda agreed, reading technical specifications. Similar to what we used in last month's tactical match. Senator Zixtal approached them carefully. Excuse me, what are your occupations? I work in accounting, Chris replied. Linda here does computer programming. We shoot together on weekends for relaxation. Tactical matches? Oh, it is just a sport, Linda explained. Teams compete using realistic scenarios. Urban combat, wilderness survival, hostage rescue situations. Really good for developing quick thinking and teamwork skills. Admiral Kethver realized they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic civilization. Human society was structured so that every citizen possessed military-relevant knowledge and equipment. Their entertainment, hobbies, work skills, and family traditions all contributed to combat readiness. As the day ended, both aliens understood that they had discovered a warrior culture disguised as peaceful civilization. Every human carried this accumulated military wisdom of their violent species history. The question was no longer why human civilians fought so effectively, but how the galaxy had failed to recognize what humanity truly was. Captain Rodriguez brought the investigation team to a large building called the National History Museum. Admiral Kethvar and Senator Zixtal followed him through halls filled with displays about human civilization. The exhibits showed weapons, battles, and conflicts spanning thousands of years. I thought it would be helpful for you to understand human history, Captain Rodriguez explained as they walked past cases filled with ancient swords and armor. This might explain why our civilians seem so prepared for combat. They stopped at a display showing human warfare through different time periods. Senator Zixtal read the information panels with growing horror. Humans had been fighting continuous wars for their entire recorded history. Unlike other galactic species that evolved past violence, humans had never stopped being warriors. Your species has been at war for 5,000 years? She asked in disbelief. Much longer than that, Captain Rodriguez replied calmly. These displays only show written history. Archaeological evidence suggests warfare goes back much further. Admiral Kethvar studied a map showing human conflicts across their planet. Red marks indicated battle locations. The entire world was covered in red dots. Your people fought everywhere? Every continent, every island, every region. Sometimes we fought other species like wolves or bears. Mostly we fought each other. Different tribes, kingdoms, nations, ideologies. War has been the normal state of human existence. They met Dr. Alan Cooper, an elderly human who worked as a military historian at the museum. His gray hair and wrinkled face suggested many years of study. He wore simple clothes and thick glasses that made his eyes appear larger. Dr. Cooper specializes in the social impact of warfare on civilian populations. Captain Rodriguez introduced him. Delighted to meet you, Dr. Cooper said, shaking hands with the disguised aliens. I understand you are studying why our civilians performed so well in recent conflicts. We are trying to understand how untrained humans achieve such extraordinary combat results. Senator Zixtal explained. Dr. Cooper chuckled. Untrained is not quite accurate. Let me show you something interesting. He led them to a computer terminal and called up statistical data. Look at these numbers. In human society, 60% of families have military veterans within 2 generations. That means most children grow up with grandparents or parents who served in armed forces. What does this mean in practical terms? Admiral Kethver asked. It means military knowledge transfers to civilian populations through family relationships. A grandfather who fought in war teaches his grandson hunting skills. A father who served as a soldier shows his daughter how to maintain weapons. A mother who was a military medic, trains her children in emergency medical care. Dr. Cooper brought up more data showing human civilian training programs. The list was extensive and shocking to the aliens. Most humans obtain hunting licenses that require weapons training and safety courses. Our educational system includes physical fitness programs that develop strength and coordination. Many civilians volunteer with emergency services, learning medical skills and crisis management. Competitive sports teach teamwork and tactical thinking. Professor Nancy Wright joined their discussion. She was a younger woman with dark hair who studied human psychology and social behavior. Her research focused on how warfare influenced civilian culture. Dr. Cooper is showing you the formal training systems, she said. But the informal systems are even more important. Informal systems? Senator Zixtal asked. Entertainment media, recreational activities, family traditions. Human children grow up surrounded by military concepts disguised as games and stories. Professor Wright activated a holographic display showing human entertainment. Our movies, books, and video games are filled with combat scenarios, weapon knowledge, and tactical situations. The display showed examples of human entertainment. Action movies depicted elaborate battles and weapon techniques. Video games taught strategic thinking and unit coordination. Books described survival skills and combat medicine. Even children's toys included miniature weapons and military vehicles. Children play with these things? Admiral Kethfer stared at the display in amazement from a very young age. They learn military concepts before they understand what they are learning. By adulthood, every human has absorbed thousands of hours of tactical knowledge through entertainment. Dr. Cooper added more disturbing information. Human society also maintains what we call practical skills that directly apply to combat. Most adults can drive vehicles, which transfers to operating military equipment. Many learn carpentry and mechanical skills, which help with field engineering. Cooking teaches chemistry and resource management. Even office work develops organizational abilities useful for military logistics. Professor Wright brought up specific examples from their recent investigation. The humans you encountered during the war were applying civilian skills to military situations. Jake Morrison used construction experience to understand building layouts and structural weaknesses. Lisa Carter applied customer service skills to team coordination and communication. Rick Thompson used mechanical knowledge to maintain and modify weapons. But how do they know to apply these skills? Senator Zixtal was struggling to understand. Other species require specific training to connect civilian knowledge with military applications. That is where human history becomes important, Dr. Cooper explained. Our species never developed a clear separation between civilian and military roles. Throughout human history, everyone was potentially a warrior. Farmers fought to defend their crops. Merchants fought to protect their goods. Craftsmen made weapons and armor. Women and children fought when their communities were threatened. The professor activated another display showing human civilian resistance movements throughout history. When human territories were invaded, civilian populations organized into fighting forces. They used local knowledge, improvised weapons, and unconventional tactics to resist professional armies. This tradition continues in modern human culture. Admiral Kethfer began to understand the full scope of what they had discovered. Your entire species maintains military readiness through civilian activities? Without really thinking about it. Yes, Captain Rodriguez confirmed. We do not consider hunting, competitive shooting, strategic games, and survival skills to be military training. To us, they are just normal human activities. But they create a population where every individual has some combat-relevant knowledge. Dr. Cooper pulled up one final piece of data that shocked both aliens. Consider this statistic. The average Human civilian has been exposed to more tactical knowledge through entertainment and recreation than most galactic military personnel receive in formal training. Professor Wright nodded in agreement. Human children play video games that simulate complex military operations. They watch movies depicting advanced combat techniques. They read books about survival and warfare. By age 18, a typical human has absorbed more strategic knowledge than a graduate of most galactic military academies. Senator Zixtal realized they had discovered something that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity. Earth civilians were not really civilians by any reasonable definition. They were a warrior population disguised as peaceful citizens. "We need to report this to the Senate immediately," she told Admiral Kethver. "The implications are staggering." As they prepared to leave the museum, both aliens understood that humanity represented something unprecedented in galactic civilization. They were a species that had never stopped being warriors, even as they built a modern technological society. 2 weeks after returning to the Galactic command ship, Admiral Kethvar received an urgent message from the Senate. Several high-ranking officials refused to believe his reports about human civilian capabilities. They demanded proof through direct testing. Senator Zixtal floated into the Admiral's office carrying official orders. Her tentacles moved in agitated patterns as she spoke. "The Senate Military Committee has voted. They want a controlled exercise pitting human civilians against our best forces." "That seems unwise," Admiral Kethver replied, studying the documents. "Based on what we observed, this could be embarrassing for our military." Senator Carthol from Andromeda is leading the opposition. He claims our investigation was flawed and that properly trained galactic forces would easily defeat any civilian population. Senator Zixtal's skin color shifted to indicate frustration. He has convinced others that humans somehow deceived us. The orders specified exact parameters for the test. 12 human civilians would face 12 elite soldiers from the Andromedian Special Forces. Both teams would receive identical equipment and minimal briefing about the exercise scenario. The battle would take place in a simulated urban environment with full monitoring and safety protocols. Captain Rodriguez agreed to help select human volunteers. He met with Admiral Kethver and Senator Zixtal in the ship's briefing room to discuss candidates. "We need genuine civilians with no military training," Admiral Kethver specified. "The Senate wants to eliminate any possibility that we are using disguised soldiers." "I understand. I have 3 volunteers who fit your requirements perfectly." Captain Rodriguez activated a holographic display showing personnel files. Tony Rivera, age 34, works as an auto mechanic. Julie Adams, age 29, works as a hospital nurse. Greg Palmer, age 26, designs computer software. Senator Zixtal reviewed their backgrounds carefully. "These individuals have never served in human military forces?" "Correct. Tony repairs civilian vehicles. Julie provides medical care to sick people. Greg writes programs for business computers." All 3 volunteered when they heard about the exercise. "Why would civilians volunteer for combat against elite soldiers?" Admiral Kethver asked. Captain Rodriguez smiled. "They think it sounds like fun. To them, this is similar to the recreational activities they enjoy on weekends." The testing facility was located on a neutral space station designed for military training exercises. The artificial environment included city streets, buildings, vehicles, and various obstacles. Advanced holographic systems could simulate different weather conditions and lighting scenarios. Commander Vexcall of the Andromedian Special Forces arrived with his 11 best soldiers. They were tall, gray-skinned humanoids with enhanced physical capabilities and decades of combat experience. Each soldier had completed hundreds of successful missions across multiple star systems. "I want to observe these famous human civilians," Commander Vexcall told Admiral Kethvar as they watched the humans prepare for the exercise. Tony Rivera was examining his assigned rifle with the focused attention he normally gave to engine problems. His hands moved with practiced efficiency as he checked the weapon's mechanisms and adjusted the sights. Years of working with mechanical devices had given him an intuitive understanding of how things functioned. Julie Adams was organizing medical supplies with the same systematic approach she used in hospital emergency rooms. She sorted bandages, medicines, and diagnostic equipment into logical groups for quick access during stressful situations. Her nursing experience had taught her to prepare for chaos and maintain calm under pressure. Greg Palmer studied the tactical communication equipment like he was analyzing computer code. His software development background helped him understand complex systems quickly. He identified ways to modify the standard communication protocols for better efficiency and security. They are treating military equipment like everyday tools. Commander Vexcall observed with amusement. This will be easier than expected. The exercise began at dawn, with both teams positioned at opposite ends of the simulated city. The objective was simple: locate and eliminate the opposing force while protecting a designated supply depot. Standard galactic military protocols applied. Admiral Kethfor and Senator Zigstall watched from the control room as both teams began moving through the urban environment. The Andromedian soldiers advanced in textbook formation, using proven tactics that had worked successfully for centuries. The human civilians immediately did something unexpected. Instead of following standard military procedures, they adapted the scenario to match familiar experiences from their civilian lives. Tony Rivera treated the urban environment like a large automotive repair facility. He identified useful materials and improvised tools from available resources. His mechanical knowledge helped him understand how to disable enemy equipment and modify their own gear for better performance. Julie Adams applied her medical training to tactical situations. She assessed risks like a nurse evaluating patient conditions. Her understanding of human anatomy helped her predict where enemies would take cover and how they might react to stress. She also prepared treatment stations in case anyone was injured. Greg Palmer approached the communication systems like a software problem. He analyzed the enemy's radio patterns and found ways to intercept their messages. His programming skills allowed him to hack into the facility's computer systems and access useful information about building layouts and security systems. The Andromedian soldiers became confused when their opponents refused to behave like proper military units. The humans moved through the city using routes that made no tactical sense according to galactic military doctrine. They communicated using informal methods that were difficult to intercept. Their coordination seemed random, but proved surprisingly effective. What are they doing? Commander Vexcall demanded as he watched his soldiers struggle to predict human movements. They are not following any recognized tactical patterns. Admiral Kethfor replied, equally puzzled. The humans were applying civilian problem-solving methods to military situations. Tony used his experience troubleshooting complex mechanical problems to analyze the battlefield like a broken engine that needed repair. Julie drew on her emergency room experience to manage multiple crisis situations simultaneously. Greg treated the entire exercise like debugging a complicated software program. When the two forces finally engaged in direct combat, the results shocked everyone watching. The human civilians coordinated their actions without formal communication. They seemed to anticipate each other's movements through some invisible connection. Their weapon handling was precise and efficient. The Andromedian soldiers found themselves outmaneuvered by opponents who broke every rule of proper military conduct. The humans used unconventional tactics that elite soldiers had never encountered in their extensive training. They improvised solutions to problems that standard military doctrine said were impossible to solve. Within 4 hours, the exercise was over. All 12 Andromedian soldiers had been eliminated, while the 3 human civilians remained operational. Commander Vexcall stared at the results in disbelief. This is impossible. My soldiers have 40 years of combined combat experience. Captain. Rodriguez joined them in the control room. Your soldiers fought like soldiers. My people fought like humans. The Galactic Senate chamber was filled with representatives from 47 different species. Admiral Kethver stood at the central podium, his 4 eyes scanning the assembled aliens while he prepared to deliver his final report. The silence was heavy with anticipation and concern. Senator Zixtal floated beside him, her tentacles curled nervously around her datapad. After witnessing the devastating performance of human civilians against elite military forces, both aliens understood. They were about to change galactic civilization forever. Honored senators, Admiral Kethfor began, his voice carrying across the chamber through universal translators. Our investigation into human-civilian combat capabilities has revealed something unprecedented in galactic history. Senator Carthul from Andromeda rose from his seat, his gray skin showing patches of angry red coloration. Admiral, we demand an explanation for the humiliating defeat of our special forces. 12 elite soldiers eliminated by 3 untrained civilians is impossible. That is precisely what we need to discuss, Admiral Kethfor replied calmly. The humans were not untrained. They were trained differently than any military force in the galaxy. Ambassador Susan Taylor entered the chamber at that moment, accompanied by Captain Rodriguez and several other human representatives. The ambassador was a middle-aged woman with silver hair and intelligent eyes. She wore simple diplomatic clothing without the elaborate decorations favored by other species. Senators, Admiral Kethfer announced, I present Ambassador Taylor from Earth. She will help explain what we have discovered about human society. Ambassador Taylor stepped forward with the confident bearing that humans seem to possess naturally. She surveyed the assembled aliens without showing any sign of intimidation, despite being surrounded by species that considered themselves superior. Honorable Senators, I understand there has been confusion about human civilian capabilities. I hope to clarify some misconceptions. Senator Carthul interrupted immediately. Ambassador, your people used deception to make us believe they were peaceful civilians. Those individuals who defeated our forces were obviously disguised military personnel. Ambassador Taylor smiled, which seemed to make several aliens uncomfortable. Senator, I assure you that Tony Rivera really does repair automobiles for a living. Julie Adams genuinely works as a nurse in a civilian hospital. Greg Palmer truly designs computer software for business applications. Then explain how they achieved impossible combat results, demanded Senator Carthul. They achieved normal results for humans. What you consider impossible is simply how our species functions. Ambassador Taylor activated a holographic display showing human civilization. Perhaps the confusion comes from different definitions of what constitutes a civilian. The display showed scenes from human daily life. Children playing with toy weapons, families hunting together, adults practicing shooting sports, teenagers playing strategic video games. To the aliens, these activities looked like military training, disguised as recreation. In galactic society, civilians are individuals who avoid conflict and depend on professional soldiers for protection. Ambassador Taylor explained, this concept does not exist in human culture. Every human is potentially a defender of their community. Senator Zixtal spoke up from her position near the podium. Ambassador, we observed that human entertainment, education, and recreational activities all contain military elements. Is this intentional preparation for warfare? Not intentional in the way you mean. These activities developed naturally from our history. Humans have always needed to protect themselves, hunt for food, and compete for resources. What you call military skills, we consider basic life abilities. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward to provide specific examples. Consider Tony Rivera, our mechanic. He learned weapon maintenance the same way he learned engine repair, from his father and grandfather. His understanding of mechanical systems applies equally to rifles and automobiles. Admiral Kethfor added his observations. During our investigation, we discovered that human civilians possess knowledge that surpasses our military academies. Their entertainment media contains more tactical information than our training manuals. This is the key point, Ambassador Taylor continued. Human society does not separate civilian and military knowledge the way other species do. A human farmer understands tactics because he must protect crops from predators. A human teacher knows emergency medicine because she must care for injured children. A human mechanic can modify weapons because he modifies machines every day. The chamber erupted in concerned murmurs as representatives realized the implications. Several senators demanded immediate clarification about human military capabilities. Senator Vextal from Centauri asked the question that worried everyone. Ambassador, how many humans possess these capabilities? Every adult human has some level of tactical knowledge and survival skills. Most could function effectively in combat situations if necessary. Ambassador Taylor paused to let this information sink in. We currently have a civilian population of approximately 8 billion individuals. The number hit the chamber like a physical blow. 8 billion potential soldiers disguised as peaceful civilians. The military implications were staggering for every galactic species. Are you threatening us? Senator Carthol demanded, his coloration shifting to deeper red. Absolutely not, Ambassador Taylor replied firmly. We joined the Galactic Senate to pursue peace and cooperation. But honesty requires acknowledging what humans are capable of when threatened. Admiral Kethfor stepped forward to support the ambassador. Senators, humans do not seek conflict. During our investigation, we observed a society focused on building, creating, and helping others. Their warrior capabilities exist alongside peaceful intentions. The question facing the Senate, Ambassador Taylor continued, is whether you can accept humans as we truly are. We cannot change our fundamental nature to match galactic expectations of civilian behavior. Senator Zixtal made a suggestion. That would reshape galactic military doctrine. Perhaps we should establish a new classification for human civilians. They clearly do not fit existing definitions. After hours of debate, the Senate reached a historic decision. They created the Human Civilian Corps, officially recognizing Earth's population as the galaxy's most effective irregular military force. This new classification acknowledged that human civilians possessed capabilities equivalent to professional soldiers while maintaining their peaceful civilian status. Ambassador Taylor accepted this designation on behalf of Earth. We are honored to serve as protectors of galactic civilization. Human civilians will defend not just our own world, but any peaceful species threatened by aggression. The galaxy's understanding of warfare changed forever that day. Traditional concept civilian and military populations no longer applied when dealing with humans. Every human baker, teacher, mechanic, and office worker was now recognized as a potential defender of galactic peace. As the Senate session ended, aliens throughout the galaxy realized they had gained 8 billion allies who looked like peaceful civilians but fought like legendary warriors. Earth's greatest strength was not their technology or their military. It was their ordinary citizens who carried the heart of warriors in their daily lives. The Human Civilian Corps became the galaxy's most respected and feared defensive force, proving that sometimes the most dangerous enemies are those who never wanted to fight.